Hello and welcome back to Hold On I'm Talking Brother. My name is Joe Greenwood and you are listening to our preview of UFC 295, which is headlined by, that's right, Jiri Prochazka versus Alex Pereira for the vacant light heavyweight title, with a co-main event of Sergei Pavlovich versus Tom Aspinall for the interim/real heavyweight title. Live from Madison Square Garden, New York. It's one of the peak events of the year for the UFC, and as per usual, I'm joined by my regular co-host, Tom Ballum. Tom, people have talked immense crud about this card, and I gotta say, it actually bangs. What do you say to that?
I say great save there, Joe. Great save, professionalising the pod industry with that catch. Crud. It is not on this card. We have got some very enticing matchups and a couple of hot prospects, meme fighters, fun fellas coming through. So, yeah, and that's before we get to Andrade versus Dern.
There's actually, now that you mention it, in terms of like meme fighter to good fighter on this main card, it leans meme, I gotta say, but I do like that. I do like that. Now, listeners, me and Tom, we're getting straight into it. We're going to give it to you like cocaine straight from Bolivia. Like, listen, we're going straight into this. Main card preview. We're going to preview each fight, okay, going from the top down. We're going to make predictions for each fight. If we choose the fighter who wins, and we get that correct, that's 1 point. And if we get the method, that's 2. 10 points on offer. Your boy Joe Greenwood, still the champ. 5 events in a row. 5-time, brother, 5-time. 2 events to go for this year. You are struggling, fam. And speaking of 2 men, though, who are not struggling, main events, Tom, of UFC 295. Jiri Prochazka versus Alex Pereira. Vacant light heavyweight title on the line. I mean, forget the X's and O's for a minute. This is just beautiful, isn't it? This is like the best fight they could have made for this division.
Yeah, that was going to be my lead-in as well, Joe. Really, can you make a more enticing matchup?
No.
In any of the heavier weight classes right now, is there a better fight out there?
What you mean, like 185, 205, 265?
Yeah, middleweight and up.
Oh, no, unless like Hamzat versus Whittaker really stirs you.
You're thinking like Hamzat versus... that's where I'm at as well, Joe. And that's the thing. These guys, they are both a Hamzat in their own right. You know, they really bring a brand with them, and that brand is pretty weird. It's a pretty weird brand for the modern UFC. We have evolved past the likes of Jiri Prochazka and Alex Pereira. They aren't the kind of fighters you expect to see sat astride the top of the division. And yet here we are.
You mean like pure kickboxer versus guy who thinks he's a samurai?
Well, yeah, like all full offense, no defense. Yeah, balls to the wall, explosion from the beginning, no pacing. Like literally no defense on your exits, wild swings, unorthodox striking. These guys get found out before they get to the top, Joe. But it just hasn't happened for Jiri Prochazka. He sat there with an almost impervious record, 29 wins in his UFC career. In his MMA career. Few in the UFC. Vast majority of those by knockout. And he's fighting a man, you know, with no pedigree outside of kickboxing. It's crazy.
Yeah. Well, okay. We're going to go through both fighters. Let's start with the former champ Prochazka, who is the former champ only through injury. Vacated the title just under a year ago, leading up to his rematch with Glover Teixeira. Vacated the title due to a horrendous shoulder injury. What was your knowledge, thinking, feeling on Prochazka a year ago and maybe even a couple years ago? Like, what was the sort of standout thing that you thought about when you thought about Prochazka as a fighter at all? Like, did you ever see much of him in Rising before he got to the UFC, or were you aware of the name?
It's kind of one of those you hear, like, you know, whispers from the east, Joe. rumours out there.
What is this Michael Chandler?
Yeah, right. In some foreign fantasy league out there. That was my relationship with Jiri. And on watching his debut against Volkan Oezdemir, I thought, my God, this guy's going to get chinned, Yeah. It's just a matter of time. Yeah. And of course, I started looking into him more, and I realised that has not really happened. Just dropping that one loss to Big Mo.
Yeah.
Only time he's been knocked out in 30 plus fights. So, wow.
Yeah. Prochazka's, he's a bit of a wild dude. I mean, there's the story King Mo talks about when he got matched up with Prochazka, like for the Rizin tournament, and he said, like, who is this Czech bum? Like, who is this dude? Like, this guy sucks. And then he started fighting him. He was just like, oh my days, am I in trouble? And like, he said that he got lucky, basically. He hit the switch, and he was like, he had this thing of like, phew, thank God I got out of that one, because that was rough going. Obviously, Jiri had the rematch later on down the line, where, Rizin obviously wanted him to beat the guy who beat him and move on in his career. But, he has like these weird wins towards the end of his run in Rizin. He had the Brandon Halsey fight, he had the Fabio Maldonado fight, he had the CB Dollaway fight, if you remember CB back in the day, getting mashed into the ground because of Herb Dean's bad reffing. Before then, Jiri then leaves to come over to the UFC. And yeah, it is quirky, weird, bizarre structure of fighting that he has, weird motions and quirks, ducks his head in and out, doesn't really put his hands up in defense, uses the lean. The lean is the main thing for him, and the sort of pivoting from there. But also, my chin is made of steel. Best of luck with that, lads.
From my reading of Jiri, it's that last point there, Joe, that is his primary defense. Hit me with all you've got, and I will wade through the fire, and the hurricane will overwhelm you. Yeah. Certainly, Dominic Reyes experienced that in their fight.
Yeah, I mean, Reyes knocked him out in that fight. Like that's the mad thing about it, is he actually knocked him out, but he kept going, because if you remember the moment, Reyes is on his back and he up kicks Prochazka as Prochazka's coming around, and Prochazka said, "Yeah, that knocked me out," and as I landed, it woke me back up, and I was on top of him. I was just like, oh, okay, I'm still here. All right. And then he kept going. We were 2 seconds away from Dom Reyes beating Jiri Prochazka. Like, if he hadn't landed in the way he had, he would have just slid off of him, slumped over, and Reyes would have had one of the greatest knockouts ever. Like, that's Jiri.
Dom Reyes is certainly a parable. It's a career arc. What could have been?
Oh, man.
For young Dom. But... yeah. Here we are. We have Jiri returning from his injury, and he's fighting Pereira. I mean, is it legitimate to match up Alex Pereira here for the belt? He's got the one win over Jan.
Yeah, I think that's fine. He had the middleweight title win over Izzy. He beat Jan in his debut. I think this is fine. I think light heavyweight is, for the most part, a bad division filled with very unique individuals. I don't know if you saw that video the other day of Johnny Walker dancing to some guy playing the saxophone in the street, like literally just doing the robot out there. In his fight gear, by the way. He's not even in camp, he was in his fight gear, just vibes out. And that is light heavyweight, It's guys they've got some skills in some domain, and they're all kind of mashed up together. And you kind of looking at it and you're like, why is Magomed Ankalaev like so unlucky? Like, he should be dominating, but he's really not. Like, that is light heavyweight. And I'm fine with Pereira getting this title shot. And in fact, I'm very pro it, because how long do we have of this guy in the UFC? Probably not that long. Let's give him something interesting. Let's give him something exciting. And Jiri Prochazka is that. So
suspend any guilt then. We can just fully enjoy it. And I mean, people are really excited for this one. It's that whole, we said in the introduction there that we leant towards the kind of meme side of the UFC. You have, Tekken fighters matching. That really, I think that summarizes it. You got the tribal element in Powhatan, the bow and arrow, his native peoples, and taking inspiration from the goods of the forest.
Yeah, exactly. And then you got
concocting.
And you got Prochazka, who comes out from loved his time in Japan so much, took the Bushido spirit, has the unique hair, sits in darkness for 3 days so he's alone with his thoughts, goes to Iceland, goes under a waterfall. I mean, it is something like from a comic book in a way. It is from ridiculous painted imagery.
Joe, it's UFC 1, you know. It's a throwback. It's a freak show fight. And
my heart is just skipped a beat in excitement, honestly. Like,
all right,
brilliant.
Well, let's get to it then. Let's get to it. What are the key things to look out for here? How do you see this fight turning? Well, what style of fight will we get? Will we get a pure striking matchup?
I don't know, to be honest. I think it really depends on Prochazka, because Prochazka, for him to win fights, he explodes and crashes into you, and he will throw a variety of things from there. Jump knees, you know, he'll throw big single shots. And also the rear leg kick to the body, he'll throw that a lot. He'll also pump the jab up, pump the jab to the body with the right straight behind it, up top. So he'll use the jab in a sort of variety way, but it is, for him, and he has talked about this as well, it is a flow thing. So the Dom Reyes knockout, that spin elbow, where he threw the right elbow up against the cage, went past him, and he just came back round with the left, and he said he didn't plan it, he felt it. He felt like, right, I can throw this spin elbow and I'll see what happens. That is what Prochazka wants. He wants to create this constant energy, create this crashing motion, and then react in the moment to it. Now, you're smirking in a way of like, this guy just sounds like a lunatic who has no idea what he's doing. However, I do think that it is an acknowledgement on his end that for him to win fights, he does have to just explode and crash in off of whatever he feels like throwing in that moment.
Well, I guess what it brings to the front of my mind is that, we know that Pereira likes to slowly march forward and build the pressure on you. And how do you reconcile these two fighting styles? You know, that's the key thing we're going to see very early on. It's hard to imagine that, given the fundamentals that Pereira has and the way he likes to fight, that Jiri's going to be able to create that type of fight. I don't think Pereira is going anywhere. I don't think you lure him into... Yeah, he's durable, and also he has those tools, those weapons, those strict fundamentals, which stop him getting kind of pulled into this kind of crazy space where Jiri likes to operate. Or does he? Does he just get caught in a crazy gunslinging match where the movement is frenetic? He's not able to just slowly march forward, as we've seen him do now in all of his fights. I find that hard to picture myself.
Yeah, I mean, it's. I guess you could say that the Adesanya rematch in MMA, where Adesanya kind of baited him in with this sort of peekaboo thing, and then exploded from being shelled up as he caught Pereira in between punches. The problem with that approach is that that's time limited, for one, because you ain't going to be able to take too much of that, and it's time limited also in terms of timing as well. Like, you've got to be on him quickly. You have to figure out his timing quickly. And I do think Jiri will have success in this fight if it goes anything past the first round. I think he will be able to have success. That first round is going to be super crucial to this. It's going to be intriguing what's going to happen here, because, you know, I talked about Jiri's approach of the exploding in, creating the chaos, you know, trying to make things happen in the moment. Pereira, on the other hand, is disguise. Because you think Pereira, you see him come out, he has this upright stance, his hands are low, they're kind of, you know what I mean, like this sort of stuck by his side, and then he explodes from there. But he has really clever little tricks. So, for example, when he sets up the jab and he's in orthodox, he doesn't lunge into the jab. He brings his rear leg forward, so he closes his stance, and then he disguises his jab step with that. So he'll get the jab in there, and then he'll pull back from there, and then throw the hook off from the rear hand from there. He will also use high kicks to draw you in. So what he'll do is he'll throw a high kick, not necessarily to knock you out, but it'll be so that I've thrown the high kick, now I'm moving and I'm having to reset, and then he wants you to come in, and then he'll throw a lead hand left hook from there. That is a very common Pereira trick and move that he goes for. So I think a lot of this fight will be actually Alex moving forward into him to then come backwards and bait him in to something bigger. The body jab, as we know, the Sean Strickland body jab that he landed and threw repeatedly, that is going to be in action a lot here for Pereira against Prochazka. And also I think Pereira will have learned from Glover, which is that double jab that Glover accidentally threw, where he threw the double jab with the right straight behind it and cracked Prochazka in the 5th round of their title fight before he went to that guillotine, which was just a terrible move. Glover would still have been champion. He still would have been champion otherwise. We've seen it before with falling into guillotines, Joe. Exactly. And we ain't going to see Pereira do that.
Don't do it, kids.
Yeah, exactly. So I think that will be the main thing, which is Prochazka blitzing in and Pereira disguising his steps in and his step backwards. So that will be the motion that we'll mostly see in this fight. It's whether then who is going to land the biggest shots first, really. It is who's going to go first. Because they always talk about first and third. Like, you want to be at the start and at the end of the combos. I don't even think third comes into this. I think it's first. Really, Tom, that is what I'm sensing and feeling in this moment. And I get the sense you feel the same as well.
I do. I certainly do. I just, when you break it down for us like that, Joe, I can't help but feel that Jiri's there to take that bait. Jiri will be pulled in to fire those shots. He's there to be countered, and he can be hit. As you mentioned, Glover Teixeira, MMA training partner of Pereira, was able to pull that off at 43 years old with a background in jiu-jitsu and
grappling and
exactly. Now you just think what a man with the kickboxing repertoire that Pereira has. He's going to land shots on Jiri. Does that chin hold up? Does it hold up in that scenario? I feel like in the Teixeira fight, Jiri was a little bit exposed. Did great to pull it off, to get through it, but you have to look at the reality of that fight, where they're both at in their careers, the tools they have at their disposal, and as you say, Glover was minutes away from winning.
Yeah. Glover was on a legendary run at that stage as well. Like, that was one of the all-time great late career runs as well. Like, so I want to give Glover a bit more credit in that moment. Like, he had figured something out and he had found something out about himself, that he was a world champion all along. It's just the problem was you had Daniel Cormier and John Jones in your division. They always talk about, Gustafsson would have been the light heavyweight champion if those two weren't there. I don't necessarily agree. I think Glover would have been there with Gustafsson. I know that Gustafsson beat Glover, but I don't know. It just felt like this crucial breakthrough moment that he got through just at the end. And
well, I think Glover's big problem was a certain Rumble Johnson.
I forgot about that one. Yeah, that was a bad one, wasn't it? Anyway, going back to this, Tom, we've gone off track there. It's. Oh, man, it's so tantalising, isn't it? Because we can talk about the X's and O's, we can talk about the theme, we can talk about the imagery of it, but when it comes down to it, is this going to go the distance? Like, will this go 25 minutes? And if it does, what will that look like? And if it goes that far into the 4th and 5th rounds, who will be in control of it? Like, are we going to just have rounds that are just clear for one guy, or is it just going to be literally moment to moment who is in charge of this fight?
I mean, I will say I found it interesting in your preview, Joe, mentioning that you see the advantage swinging towards Jiri as the fight wears on. I'm not convinced of that. You have to really walk me through.
Oh, I don't necessarily agree. I don't remember saying that. I actually do think that they both have an advantage going into later rounds. Like, Jiri has got cardio is one of his weapons as well. Like, there's a fight in Ryzen that I always like to bring up, which is the Vadim Nemkov fight, okay? The current Bellator light heavyweight champion. And Nemkov could have a claim to being the best light heavyweight in the world. Jiri beat him because Nemkov retired on the stool at the end of their first round. It was a 10-minute first round. That's what they did in Ryzen. And he retired on the stool because Jiri just kept going, even when, like, Nemkov was on top of him, beating him up. And he got exhausted from that because of Jiri's action from underneath. And there was a bit where, at the end of that round, Nemkov's on top of him. Ref's like, all right, end of the round. Jiri springs up, goes to the corner, and Nemkov is like dead. He's dead to the world. And I do think Jiri does have cardio and pace that he can weaponize against people. I just wonder if Pereira will fall for that, and if, because of that, Pereira will invest into body work early on. The jab to the body, hooking to the body as well.
Well, certainly I think he will, Joe. I think something I wanted to just add in here to kind of evidence our discussion is the significant strikes by target of either. Alex, very diverse, 41% going to the head, 35% to the body, and 24% down to the legs.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, very diverse offering. And we know he has a kind of consistency in his pace through the fight also. Jiri, on the other hand, is the extreme, periods of peak explosion, going back within himself for a little bit and exploding again. And his significant strikes by target, 85% to the head. 3 strikes landed to the legs in his UFC career so far.
What?
3, Joe. Yeah.
So, okay. Right. And Pereira has got... Oh, my God. Wait, did he throw one in each fight? One leg kick in each fight, basically? Oh, my Lord. That's ridiculous.
Yeah, this is on the official UFC page. I haven't actually got a record of these 3 strikes. I didn't count them myself, but right. I'll take it. We're having some accuracy. Quite telling.
Yeah.
Now, Joe, I'd like to hear your prediction.
I've gone for an Alex Pereira knockout win. I think he's gonna get him. I love Jiri. He's one of my favourite fighters. I really loved him in Ryzen. I love Alex Pereira. This guy is he defies all logic, really, when it comes to mixed martial arts and combat sports in general. But it's going to happen, is it? Yuri's going to explode in, and he's going to be a little bit too far away for him to land, but he's going to be in the right perfect place for that left hook. And he's going to go down. Yeah. He's going to go down. Pereira knockout, I am seeing the left hook.
When you create so many opportunities like Jiri does, you leave so many openings. It doesn't even need to be something super crisp. The timing just has to be right. Little check hook when you've overextended, and that can put you away. So I think it's a very sensible choice, Joe, to pick Pereira. I will tell you that I have picked Prochazka to win this fight. Yes, I have done that despite talking him down this entire time. Let me explain it to you, Joe. Pereira, he also leaves openings. He gets, he does get seduced into a certain kind of fight, as you mentioned, his recent loss to Adesanya, where, he thought he was kind of peppering him, working him against the cage, and he wasn't, and it didn't really take a whole lot to put him down. He has been hit consistently by effective strikers, and Prochazka has a propensity to hit you hard on the chin and fold you. Tremendous power, upper weight class, and the X factor, of course, is if we get this breaking of Pereira's rhythm, what kind of scrambles, clinches, takedowns might we see? Ultimately, you have to give the edge to Jiri there. Not that we looked into it a whole lot in this preview, but I picked Jiri Prochazka to win this fight by KO.
Wow. What sort of KO are you envisioning?
Tekken style. Bruce Buffer comes on the mic, finish him, and then I think there's an elbow there, or a wheel kick, or something to that.
Something ridiculous, yeah. My words, Tom, my words. That really has surprised me. Really has surprised me. That was
I have to say, I thought you would pick Jiri.
Why? Because I'm just like a mark for Japan. Like I love Japan so much, so I have to pick Jiri. I do love Japan, and I do love Jiri. So what can I say? Right, Tom. I love Japan. I love Jiri Prochazka. I love Tom Aspinall, and I love Sergei Pavlovich, and I love this interim heavyweight title fight. Interim heavyweight title on the line because John Jones got injured and his fight with Stipe Miocic was called off. Praise the Lord.
Praise the Lord.
Praise the Lord, indeed. In steps Sergei Pavlovich versus Tom Aspinall for the interim heavyweight title here. Are we having similar feelings here to Jiri Prochazka about this fight? Of like, who is just going to get the kill switch in this matchup?
Yes, but I feel like there are some more tangibles, mainly because we don't have the Jiri factor, the chaos zone in this fight. So I feel like it's easier to break down, really. There's one area I think this fight will be decided, but I think I'll leave that and I'll tease that out further in our discussion. I suspect you're leaning on the same lines. Let's talk about how they've got here. We've got now both men riding an impressive record. They've both got serious names. They're both legitimate title contenders.
Yeah.
You know, Pavlovich in his run, he's dealt with both threats, you know, big power punchers in Tuivasa and Lewis. Blew both of them away very comfortably in the first round. Did that mainly with his speed and accuracy, but also his range, Joe. His range. And the way that he uses that as a boxer. I think Pavlovich is actually quite special there. I think we've kind of maybe not given him the credit he deserves, because he does roll with punches, he does tuck his head behind his jab, he does disguise from that jab. Yeah. It's not just explosion.
No, it's not, but he wins his fights in the explosion, or after the explosion, I should say, when he closes that distance. And reality, you know, you talk about the jab, and the jab is there purely to find that distance so that he can then start throwing the straight punches, because you know, when he blew away Tuivasa, it was just straight shots, basically. Just walked through him and landed straight shots against Derek Lewis when Derek Lewis got done. And you know what? You know, I know Lewis popped up, but it was going one way. Like, there wasn't much happening there for Derek, I'm afraid to say. He does throw mostly straight shots. His technique is boxy and square, you know, not flowing. But it works for him. You know, this is the thing with heavyweights. It's like they tend to find their little quirk that they then rely on for the most part.
Hold on. I do want to emphasise here, to stand in that space with a man like Derek Lewis and Tai Tuivasa, to have that kind of clarity and conviction in one's game, it takes a bit more than a quirk. And I think there are little details here that when you watch the slow-mo of Pavlovich, when you see what he's actually doing, there's a little bit more to it. And it is, I'll have to say, a real fundamental boxing approach. The defense he maintains. He does not leave that many opportunities, even though he's in a very, very dangerous space. And that's what allows him to have the clarity of mind to find his shots.
And you know what that comes from is his eyes are open. Like, he's never not looking at his target. Like, he's never not like shying away from them. He's always fixed on them. He's never really thinking about the technique. He knows the hands are going to land, and it's more like, what are they going to throw back? And he does at points. I know this sounds odd, but he does at points roll with the shots because his arms are extended out. He can block shots and roll with them with his shoulders sort of tucked. You know, his head's tucked into the shoulder. So that is there for him. But, you know, Tom, you know, I know you want to give him a bit more credit than most do, but it does come from a certain point. He's like, right, well, I've had enough of this. Like, let's get down to it, and I'm going to blow you away. And he does blow people away. You know, when I rewatched the Tuivasa fight, I mean, I observed the finish is what happened. There's not much of a fight there to watch. And my partner was there, sat next to me, doing her own thing, and then she just looked over, and there was a point where, like, she knew Tuivasa, she didn't really know Pavlovich, and she was watching Tuivasa spin away, and she just went like, oh Jesus, like this, like, what is this guy? Like, it was this, he has this aura to him as well. Like, he has now got an aura to him of like, you do not want to be with this guy, like, for
Absolutely
long.
Not.
No,
Absolutely
on the feet.
Not.
And then the Curtis Blades' fight. That's the fight that we haven't talked about. You teased out the other thing that he faced, which was the wrestling, and Blades' wrestling fell apart because Pavlovich started hitting him. Like, once he started hitting him, he was like, I've got to take him down. Pavlovich knew the takedowns were coming, got low, got underneath Blades, hooks, get my hands on your chest, off you go, son, and here I come again.
And here's my range with my hand on your chest to start coming straight down the middle and uncorking.
Exactly.
Now, Saif Saud, he did one of his breakdowns here for the UFC. I don't know if you had the joy of watching that. Yeah, they kind of put it out there without much fanfare. You know, you see the countdown, you see the embedded, but around a week before the fights, they will have an hour-long breakdown of one fight, often on these big.
They're pretty good. Normally, I watch them after we've recorded for the most part.
Yeah, so this fight, he didn't do one on Prochazka and Pereira, but he did do one on Aspinall versus Blades. Aspinall versus Pavlovich, and looked at the Blades fight for Pavlovich. And actually, you know, when Blades shoots, you can pause it there, where Blades has got under him, he's got his hands locked, and Pavlovich is kind of going backwards. His legs are in a bad position. It looks like Blades should run through that takedown, especially given Blades. Although he is a little bit over his knees, it's just you know, when you look at the premium of Blades wrestling. But Pavlovich is very fast, very very fast in reacting to that scenario, and gets his legs back and, you know, over him and sprawls very nicely. The other fighter he's fought, though, who offered something more than Tuivasa and Lewis in, you know, striking, he fought Alistair Overeem. His only loss on his record. I don't know if you had the chance to rewatch that fight, but Overeem basically made it dirty. He wrapped him up in the clinch, and this clinch is, well, before we get into Aspinall, I think is going to be key. What did for Pavlovich in this fight was Overeem had already been threatening takedowns, trying to trip him, trying to duck in, but Pavlovich had maintained good defense. They had traded a bit more on the feet, and then Overeem wrapped him up in a clinch, took him in a tie clinch, and landed a trip off that, and brutally finished him. Hellacious ground and pound, and that is the only loss on Pavlovich's record.
Yeah, I remember that fight in reference to Pavlovich, because again, it was one of those just like, who is this bum? Like, who is this dude? Like, all right, whatever. And then you start to see him knocking people out, and it's like, yeah, I remember what Overeem did to him. And then when, you know, he beat, you know, Abdurakhimov, and you're like, oh god, this guy actually might be okay. And in the last three fights, you're like, okay, he has got something there. And I do agree that I do think the clinch is the important thing, because, you know, not even just in terms of the trips and the takedowns from there, but getting his arms moving, tiring, you know, making him use his arms not in a striking, having them be worked over and getting him out of the first round. I mean, I know that Aspinall has barely gotten out of the first round. He's only gotten out of the first round once, and that was against Arlovsky. But, like, Pavlovich has not been out the first round ever in the UFC, even in his defeat to Overeem. I wonder if that is what Aspinall will look at. Now, let's talk about Tom Aspinall. We've gone through Pavlovich. Let's talk about Aspinall here. He's stepped up in the last year or so. You know, he had the Volkov win. He then had the fight against Blades where he blew his knee out in the first 20 seconds. And then he had the Marcin Tybura win. All main events, all in London. And it was this sort of like elevation point for him of like, are you going to be a main event heavyweight? Can you step up in the way that Cyril Gane has, in the way that Pavlovich has, and actually in a way that Curtis Blades has up to like the main event level? And I think Aspinall has excelled for the most part. I think we can't really take much from the Blades fight, really. And, you know, I've been a fan of Aspinall since he's come into the UFC. He's beaten the guys he has to beat, you know, your boy, Alan Bordeaux, you know, Jake Collier, our collective boy, Sergei Spivak, you know, where he absolutely blew him away. You know, Aspinall he's a super athletic guy. He's got really good grappling, offensive grappling, and he's got a nice springy striking style. Bounces on the balls of his feet, nice low kicking game, and then quick hands up top. from there. Pumps out the jab.
Quick.
Yeah, extremely quick, straight punches. And I think his punches probably are a bit more technically correct in an MMA Muay Thai sense than someone like Pavlovich, who has got the, as you say, the broader, squarer boxing style. And I think that will be a fascinating mix-up there to see who can actually land first on each other, and also who can get out of the action first as well. Because I think Aspinall will be able to move in and out a lot quicker than Pavlovich. It's just whether he can get out without taking a huge shot if he starts the exchanges.
I'm skeptical. That he can get out. I think that's why I come to the clinch as the key tool. I think Pavlovich's pressure has been just unbelievable. Unbelievable in his wins.
Yeah.
Terrifying. There has been no escaping out the side and getting a breather and resetting, and he's on you. He's chasing you down, and he's right there, but he's not, because his reach is that bit more than yours, and he knows how to use it. I think it's a big test for Aspinall, the biggest of his career. Just looking over those wins that he's got, trying to pick out the most significant one for this fight, and I'm struggling to draw a comparison. A fighter that he's beat that has the same weapons as Pavlovich.
So then who has Pavlovich faced that's got the same weapons as Aspinall?
He hasn't. Because Aspinall has such a well-rounded game, and he's also a very smart fighter. Again, in that preview from Safe Saud, he highlighted a couple of finishes from Aspinall where basically he lands a knee from close to a clinch position as the opponents come in to land their strike. He kind of moves out the way and comes up with the knee into the gut. Other guy kind of recoils in horror, and before the other guy's even had a chance to step back onto his feet, Aspinall's already coming in straight down the pipe with another straight right. He sat down, Collier with that,
Spivak
finished
as well.
him.
Spivak as well, no? You did that too.
Yeah, I'm not sure if that was a highlight that they picked out in that one.
I know the Collier one you're talking about though. Yeah, super.
I mean, it's super slick. He knows what he's going to do a couple of shots in advance, and that's very special. But you need the breathing space to set that kind of thing up. And I don't know how he gets it without wrapping up Pavlovich in the clinch. The thing is, he's very difficult to keep a hold of. He's strong. He doesn't mind being in that position himself. I guess my takeaway here, Joe, is that I think you are leaning towards Tom Aspinall.
Yeah, I am leaning towards Aspinall because of the well-roundedness of his game. I think he does probably have a better clinch game than Pavlovich. The clinch is the thing that I was thinking about, of if Aspinall can get close to him and get trips and takedowns from there, can elbow him off the brakes. But the interesting thing with Pavlovich is that his pressure doesn't really come from much other than his footwork as such, of walking you down. Because when you think of pressure in MMA, it comes off double jabs to the bodies, kicks to the body, backing you up, calf kicks, trying to slow you down. Whereas Pavlovich, it is actually
the threat of a takedown.
The threat of the takedown.
Colby or Usman, grinding you into the cage.
Exactly. Whereas Pavlovich, it is, I'm going to wait, and it's the threat of the explosion. It's that threat is the thing that backs people up. I just think that the guys that he's faced in the striking sense, like Tuivasa and Lewis, who are at the top of the division, are not as well-rounded as Aspinall. And I think that game plan, I would be surprised if that worked in the first round against Aspinall. I do think both of these guys, though, if it goes into a second or third round, that is going to be hard. That's going to be hard watching. As each round goes,
it all falls away.
Yeah, it all falls away. I mean, it would be fascinating to watch what these guys look like. But yeah, I do lean towards Aspinall. And actually, Tom, shall I hit you with my prediction right now?
Yeah.
I've had to do it. Tom Aspinall via submission over Sergei Pavlovich. I have to do it. Do I want a British fighter to become world champion again? Of course I do. There is that bias there, I'm sorry to say, to Sergei. I know that you're a bit more cold when it comes to these things. I know you're picking Pavlovich because you do like Pavlovich. He's probably the memeiest fighter on this card in a weird way, and I know that you like him for that. But yeah, Tom Aspinall by submission for me.
Yeah, it's the rational choice, and any smart commentator.
I don't think there is a rational choice for this fight.
I mean, it's kind of like...
12 days' notice is not great for Aspinall either.
That was also... I was going to ask you that, Joe. Who does that favour? I think it favours Pavlovich. Yeah, I really do. Because, basically what Pavlovich is drilling, the threat to him is what Aspinall possesses, what he lost to Overeem with. It is getting tied up in a clinch. He has to favour him if it's a striking matchup. He has to favour himself. He has to have tremendous confidence in that with the men that he's beaten already. Whereas, this is a different level of threat for Aspinall to deal with. It's, I think he would have liked a full camp going into this. I could have gone either way, Joe, but I'll be honest, you've got me on tilt. As you say, you won 5 events in a row. I'm all over the place, and in this case, I've picked Pavlovich to win by knockout.
Wow. You absolute scumbag. This is like when you picked Usman to beat Leon earlier this year. That's bad, man. That's bad. You let your country down. Right. Let's talk about the rest of this card, man. Jessica Andrade versus Mackenzie Dern in the featured fight. Down at strawweight, this is make or break now for Mackenzie Dern, isn't it? Of are you actually going to learn how to take people down? Are you actually going to learn to do it? I mean, she's been training with Henry Cejudo, who is, I think, one of the best coaches when it comes to refining talent. He takes people, finds what they're best at, and, accentuates things, and improves the things that they've got flaws in. He has done this with multiple fighters. And, I think that is the right person to go to. Andrade is in a weird spot as well of do you actually care about fighting anymore? Are you just there for these paychecks? I do really enjoy watching her. She throws ridiculous power punches, and I'll always respect her for that. But she has been finished in her last 3 fights, all against the best fighters in the divisions that she's fought in. Erin Blanchfield, Yan Xiaonan. I mean, the Yan Xiaonan one was just ridiculous. Yeah, and then Tatiana Suarez she got run over by her.
I mean, the Yan Xiaonan one, that was one of the most embarrassing knockouts in elite level MMA I've ever seen.
Really? That bad?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, really that bad. I thought it was absolutely a terrible indictment of well, I don't want to let the whole... No. I won't say it, but it was poor. Let's just say that. You don't get caught like that at the top level. Andrade is running in on a straight line. Both hands are up in the air. She's looking up in towards, the stratosphere.
Yeah.
Yan Xiaonan just steps out the side and clocks her very easily. And Andrade is kind of swinging and Yan's not there. And then she falls to the mat. It was a terrible loss. She's in a very bad place. She's there for the taking. As you say, if Mackenzie Dern can't get it done here, then that's the upper limit on her career, really.
Yeah.
Interesting fight. The odds makers, they're favouring Dern here. I personally think...
Yeah, go on.
I see it as a banana skin for Mackenzie Dern.
Same.
I thought you would have been seduced by, the femininity of Mackenzie.
No, I when you told me that Andrade was an underdog, I was like, oh, I'd be smashing that. I'd be sticking my 20 quid on that. Do you know what I mean? That's the bet I would make. I have picked Mackenzie Dern by decision though, because I do think Andrade, is she in this anymore? I don't know. I think Dern also knows that this is her shot at it. She has got...
How does she get it done? How does she win rounds, Joe? She just ties her up and...
Clinch, trips, takedowns from there. Her takedowns are dreadful. She is going to spam them. I have just an inkling, though. I have seen some tape study that Cejudo's put out there where I'm like, actually, oh, God, she actually turned the corner on a takedown. Oh, dear. Oh, dear. Oh, my Lord. Andrade might be in trouble here. If she can do that,
right.
It also does require Dern not being punched. I mean, Dern is tough. I'll give her that. But, the will to sap out of her. Her submission threat, I feel like, is actually a bit overinflated, particularly at this level. It ends up being position more than submission for her. If you look at that Angela Hill fight, someone that she should have beaten, she ended up just like controlling position quite a lot. So yeah, I'm leaning towards a Dern decision here, Tom. Give me your Andrade knockout pick right now.
I picked because of Dern's toughness. I picked Andrade by decision. I think it's a bit of a layup for her. Like, Andrade has been shown to really actually be lacking those fundamentals we've been praising guys like Pereira for. She's been embarrassed, as I say, in her last fights, but mainly because the other fighters haven't been there to hit. So she's been walking them down and swinging. But the women's game has evolved past that a little bit more. They move out the way now. Mackenzie Dern doesn't move out the way, Joe. She gets clocked. And she comes in naked, not in the yes
fighting sense. Yeah.
Yes. So I picked Andrade to win this by decision.
Fair pick. I would probably, if I'm going to do an accumulator, I will be putting Andrade on there though. Right. This. Oh my days. Steamroller Matt Frevola is back, and he's facing Benoit St Denis at lightweight. This is who is going to be ranked 15th out of these two.
Tantalising.
I love these two. Both junior boys for me and you, I think, at this stage. St Denis had the kind of rough debut where he was fighting up at welterweight and he just got absolutely mauled and the ref should have stopped it. Yada, 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 we know that. But he's gone back down to lightweight, his natural weight class. And let me bang, bro. Julian Lane himself. Like, this is just... this man is all action all the time. 4 finishes. 2 rear naked chokes. 2 ground and pound finishes. 1 over Thiago Moises. 1 over Ismael Bonfim. He has got some nice names on that record there. But Matt Frevola, 3 first round finishes in a row. 1 over Drew Dober, all hooks all the time for Matt Frevola. That is just it. It is just, you come close to me, bro, you're getting the hooks. Yeah. Like the Aitzatar one. It was, Aitzatar got hooked 3 times, and then even as he fell down, Frevola keeps throwing the 4th one, like, because he's just like, I've got to throw them. Yeah, I love Matt Frevola. I love Benoit St Denis. This is just going to be nasty violence. St Denis, though, nice body kicks. That's the thing I like to throw out there.
Crunching body kicks. Now he's looked great. Who has looked better? I mean, they both really. The train has left the station, Joe. It's going, and now it's like, well, what kind of fuel is it going to get? Is it going to get that good shit, or is it going to get a load of water in the engine? Because I mean, this is like you say, this is matching up 2 guys who perhaps could meet later on in their career. It is the bloodbath. That is lightweight, if you want to enter the...
I don't need to see this later in their career. I want to see it now. Like, no messing. No, this is... I mean, yeah, I think it is... if St Denis can throw the body kicks, tire Dober out, and then throw the hands up top, or is it going to be if he gets too close and then, Frevola can throw a hook over the jabbing hand? That will be the main sort of technical matchup that I'm looking at here. It's just who do you like more for violence, Tom? Like, give it to me. Like, what do you think? What else are you sort of feeling about this fight?
Oh, I'm feeling violence.
Yeah,
and I think that St Denis delivers it on a more epic scale than Frevola. I've really been impressed with him, and I think the scalps that he's got there are of a slightly higher grade. Then you look at losses to Terence McKinney and Polo Reyes, who is a man who I do not know who is, but he has beaten Matt Frevola, so good for him. I'm not seeing the likes of that fella on St Denis' record. Just that loss to Eliseu, as you say, in the weight class above. He's looked so good, Joe. I cannot look past St Denis. I've gone for a decision, though.
Oh! 15 minutes of blood, though. That's what we're getting, right? Just 15 minutes. Oh, my Lord, I would love that. I get that. I think that's fair. I also think that, St Denis, when he gets people hurt and they get down to the ground, I know this sounds odd, but he is quite thoughtful of when he starts unloading. He's not going to just start throwing recklessly. It's just am I in position? All right, let's go. He's had some good sub finishes though, like the Bonfim one after he hurt him. Like that was a nice one there as well.
A mount that was, starting to get his own kind of hype train going.
For sure.
Brought an end to that one pretty quickly.
For sure. Yeah, I have gone for Matt Frevola on this one. And Tom, you're going to love this. I've gone for a decision. 15 minutes. Oh, Lord. 15 minutes of just absolute carnage. Can't wait for this. This is going to be an absolute banger. Banger central. Opening the main card then, Pat Sabatini versus Diego Lopes. This is going to be a banger in a different way, Tom, I think we can agree. Maybe not so much on the feet, but more so on the ground. Sabatini, 12 submission wins in his career versus Diego Lopes, who has got... How many sub wins has he got? I mean, is it something ludicrous as well? 12 submission wins for him as well. Sorry, my mistake there. So, equaling up there. Lopes jumping out to us in his debut against Movsar Evloev, where he lost a unanimous decision, but put Evloev in some awkward positions there, particularly when it comes to getting like a knee bar on him. He's looked like a good scrambly boy, got a nice triangle armbar finish on Gavin Tucker.
Very nice.
Very slick. Very slick. The thing is also is that Lopes has got pretty good striking as well to go with it. Nice long kicks as well. Nice, again, kicks to the body from there. Sabatini, though, he just loves them subs, doesn't he? He just loves going to Subway. Give me that foot long, Give me a heel hook in there. He has got that variety there. He has, though, been finished by Damon Jackson not that long ago. That was the thing that stood out to me. Where I was just like,
shocking.
I don't remember this fight at all. Like, what happened? So that is partly in my thinking here of choosing Diego Lopes, and I've chosen by decision.
I've gone for a Diego Lopes submission.
Oh my lord! We haven't picked anything the same, have we, on this?
Nothing the same. I was sure you would be a sucker for Pat Sabatini, and we were about to have a face-off that we've never seen before on Hold On, I'm Talking Brother.
Yeah.
But I'm a stan. I'm a Diego Lopes stan.
Same.
The look.
I love it. His emo haircut.
That's it. Yeah, that's it.
He's got he's got a charm to him that I quite like. I don't
know. The way that he stepped in against Evloev out of nowhere and put on the performance he did.
Yeah.
I just think this fight could be a lot of fun. As you said, scrambly boy, I think was your breakdown of Diego Lopes. That he is, Joe. And of course he'll need to be here against Sabatini. I just from what I've seen from Lopes, he can create opportunities even from adverse situations. So Sabatini, of course, will be, very mindful of that. I'm just leaning towards Lopes against the odds makers who have picked Pat Sabatini.
Really?
Yeah.
No, I'm liking Lopes, and then you know what? I kind of want him to build up to a rematch with Evloev. No, I really do. I really, really do. I think that would be, that'd be well up for that. Tom, I did put on the notes prelims, and I put oh dear. These prelims are pathetic. Like, these are dreadful.
Yep. Poor, and that's something I'm upset about. I definitely consider the prelims to be an appetizer. It all bubbles away. It's part of the big event. I'm not really seeing much here that I want to watch at all. However, well, no, I'm not going to use the words that I want to watch it, but little nod to Jared Gordon and Mark Madsen down there on the early prelims.
Please, Jared. Please, just get rid of this man.
Stop it.
Stop it. Get rid of this man. Get rid of this man. Right. Listeners, we're going to go into the news very quickly here. The big news. 3 main events announced for the start of the year. January, February, March. January, we have got Sean Strickland versus Dricus du Plessis for the middleweight title. February, we've got Alexander Volkanovski versus Ilia Topuria for the featherweight title. And in March, we have Sean O'Malley versus Marlon Chito Vera. Tom, initial thoughts on those fights. Who do you think is most likely to win the title out of those 3 contenders that we got there?
Wow, you've put me on the spot there, Joe. So we're looking at Marlon Vera, and we're looking at
Dricus.
The featherweight. Dricus is he's fighting Sean. Oh my god.
And Topuria.
I can't pick Topuria. I can't pick Cheeto. Leaves me with Drickus, Joe.
Wow. Do you think Drickus will do it though? Like, I don't know. Drickus must be thinking, thank God Sean Straw won that one, because that's a much easier fight than Izzy.
Absolutely. Yeah. I don't know, Joe. The thing is, Drickus, he's humbled me, and I have to walk on eggshells for the rest of my life because of what I said on tape about him going into that Whittaker fight.
Same.
And I just can't bet against him. Sean, equally though, for the performance that he was able to produce against Adesanya, I'm still reeling from that. The whole sport is really. So, very, very intriguing fight. Perhaps not the most intriguing of the three, though.
No, Volk Topuria seems to be the one.
Yeah.
What sort of state is Volk in? Wow. Physically and mentally? Like, there was a bit of a worry after that press conference when he was breaking down, and oof, man. I hope he's okay. I think Topuria, man, that's no easy dinner that Volk has bitten off there.
That's not a tune-up. That's not an easy back on the horse gently. That's the biggest challenge that he could possibly have at featherweight. I mean, our initial reactions to these fights, Joe, were at featherweight there isn't a better matchup for the belt. I think we're unanimous in that. And same, of course, at middleweight, Drickus deserves his shot.
Yeah.
The fight makes sense. What about Chito Vera and Sean O'Malley?
I mean, it should be Merab versus O'Malley. We know why they're not doing that.
No.
Or Corey Sandhagen should be the other one. That's the other one there. We know why it's Marlon Vera. Marlon Vera is just like, he's the luckiest man in the world, isn't he? He's so lucky that Aljamain lost that fight, because otherwise he is not fighting for the title right now. Everyone knows that. And Sandhagen, I think, has got quite a good case for being annoyed here. Like, he's been willing to fight. He was going to fight Umar Nurmagomedov. Like, accepting that fight should get him a title shot. Never mind, actually, the fight didn't happen. But, he's willing to fight these guys. O'Malley's lucky as well, in that Vera is there. I also think that could be a snooze fest. Mm-hmm. I think that could be a bit of a snoozer.
Because of Chito Vera?
Because of both of them.
Nah, not having that.
I think
Sean O'Malley, you're not impressed with what you've seen from him?
I love O'Malley.
Come on.
I love watching him.
Great. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, but
I don't love watching Chito Vera.
No, but I'm saying that Chito's style, it could end up like that Sean Pedro Munoz fight, where if just Chito just switches stances with him. I will say that Chito probably will exchange a bit more than Pedro Munoz did. He will go into boxing range a bit more. But, yeah, it's a bit of an uphill climb, I think, for him. Particularly after watching what Sandhagen did to him.
Yeah, well, I mean, unbelievable that was scored as a split decision. It's just mind-boggling.
50-45 for me, like total domination. and
that's the thing, like people do buy into the Chito narrative, that he's like, okay, he doesn't land much, but when he does, and Sean,
on Frankie
of course,
Edgar and Dominic Cruz, both washed fighters.
Yes, I mean, blew them away.
Yeah,
what a way to send Frankie Edgar off. I'll never forget it. Children watching, wife on the side. Wow. What a way to go.
No, he had one more after that. Don't you remember the Chris Gutierrez one?
Yeah, it was Chris Gutierrez. And when he got caught with the flying knee.
Yeah. No,
was it not?
No, wasn't it an uppercut or something like that? Whatever, it was something horrendous. No, the flying knee was Sandhagen. Sandhagen.
Yeah.
But yeah, Sandhagen's been robbed here, I think, and... yeah, maybe
he's still there, Joe. He's still there. Like O'Malley, as the champ, let's look at it this way: he deserves the chance to right that wrong. Like Chito isn't that illegitimate. We've seen more crazy matchups. We saw Dan Henderson come in and fight Michael Bisping.
You ripped Dan Henderson out of my mouth. Then I was just about Dan Henderson. Yeah, no, Dan Henderson, of course, being the ridiculous one there. Yeah. No, I think that's about right.
It's fine. Let it happen. Umar,
Nice warm up for UFC 300. Pretty clear what the main event of that's going to be. Two of the juiciest men in history, Conor McGregor and Michael Chandler, no longer having to deal with USADA. Oh my days. At welterweight, muscles on muscles on muscles. Cannot wait.
Sounds ridiculous, Joe. We'll be here to preview it.
Yes,
thank you for coming along today.
Yes, Tom, thank you. Listeners, We will be back next week to review UFC 295. We're going to go through our picks one more time. I actually can't even remember them. That's how different they were. Pat Sabatini versus Diego Lopes. I picked Lopes by decision.
Lopes submission here.
Matt Frevola versus Benoit St Denis. I picked Frevola by decision.
Benoit decision.
Jessica Andrade versus Mackenzie Dern. I picked Dern by decision.
Andrade decision.
Sergei Pavlovich versus Tom Aspinall for the interim heavyweight title. I picked Aspinall by submission.
Pavlovich KO.
And in the main event, Jiri Prochazka versus Alex Pereira. I have picked Pereira by knockout.
And I've picked Jiri Prochazka to win by knockout.
Oh my god. Are you regretting any of those picks?
I was lost, Joe. I still am. I can't wait.
Yeah.
Like, have we ever had this? Like, we normally are so able to reach a narrative between us that makes sense.
Yeah.
Of course, we get it wrong, you know.
Of course.
We get it wrong.
That's the nature of the sport.
It makes sense. None of this makes sense, Joe. Anything's possible. Very intriguing. Some of the closest matchups I think we've had across a card.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. A fascinating card, and I can't wait
to
watch
Joe,
it.
There's no Bo Nickel versus, Jimmy Smith, who they found behind the stadium, an hour before. There's no gimmies here.
No, exactly. Listeners, thank you so much for joining us. Like, subscribe, leave a comment. We will get back to you in the comments. Send us an email at holdonbrother69@gmail.com. We will be back next week to review this card. Tom, thank you so much for joining me.
Yep, all the best, everybody. Thanks for that.
And listeners, thank you so much for joining us. Enjoy the fights. Bye-bye.